There are medical doctors I've heard on podcasts that they have made hospital policies change to make sure they're getting their patients outside to get sunshine, whether it's the vitamin D production, the psychological, um, benefit of getting sun in your eyeballs. It's all the above. Hello and welcome to the Weaponized Body Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Ryan Hewitt, and today I'm coming to you with a information-packed episode on a phenomenal topic, a controversial topic, and one that I am very passionate about, actually. What if I told you there was a free life-extending, mood-boosting, brain-healing therapy that your ancestors relied on for millions of years, but modern medicine told you to avoid it? Would you believe me? Uh, you know, the um, the advice of staying out of the sun has somehow permeated our culture, and people are terrified of the sun, and it is at a lot of folks' peril, and it is at the detriment to a lot of their health. Staying out of the sun and lathering sunscreen on themselves before they even leave the house, cover themselves up, and spend more time indoors under fluorescent lighting, breathing recycled air than they do outdoors. It seems absurd when you think about it, but this is literally the behavior of most of our culture and society in the Western world. Um, so today I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that's going to sound crazy coming from, Dr. Ryan Hewitt as a chiropractor, hormone expert, functional medicine practitioner, talking about the sun. Listen, I'm not a dermatologist. I'm somebody who has studied some of the science behind the sun and the health benefits that we get from the sun, and it is literally incredible. It's kind of like exercise. If there was somehow we were able to like bottle up exercise and put it into a pill and give it to people, it would literally be the most blockbuster medication that ever hit the planet. I feel the exact same way about sunshine. If we were able to bottle up the benefits and capsulize it and give it to you, the benefits would blow anything away on the market today. So don't get me wrong, you can absolutely overdo sunshine. I'm not crazy. I'm not here to tell you to go fry yourself midday, for hours on end. But I am here to tell you that the fear of the sun is doing more harm than good these days. The science actually supports that you need sunshine. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not just about, getting a nice tan. And it's not just about, you know, producing vitamin D in your body. It's a lot more complicated than that. So today we're going to talk about why the sun is critical for human physiology, brain health, and longevity. So why your sunscreen habit might be quietly undermining your health. So here we go. One of the things I wanted to talk about first when it comes to the sun was where this fear came from. Um, Back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was a big push to link any and all sun exposure directly to skin cancer. There was a rise in melanoma diagnoses, but here's the thing: most people don't know a lot of these cases weren't from people living like active outdoor lifestyles, getting too much sun. They were from people who spent like 90% of their lives indoors. And they would go on vacation, get roasted like a lobster, and go right back to the office. So that pattern, like long periods with no sun, followed by like acute intense exposure, is like the worst possible combination for skin health. And never mind, there was nothing studied when it comes to, what do these people's diets look like? What sort of antioxidants behaviors are they practicing? What is their sleep like? How much water do they drink? All of these things matter when it comes to how your body is able to tolerate sun. So instead of educating people on how to build tolerance, the message became like avoid the sun entirely, cover up, and then put on this shit called sunscreen every day. Here's the inconvenient truth. All right. There is no money in sunlight. You can't patent it. You can't sell it in a bottle. You can't bill insurance for it. But if this, like I said, if the sun was a pharmaceutical drug, it would be the most prescribed profitable medicine in history. There are medical doctors I've heard on podcasts that they have made hospital policies change to make sure they're getting their patients outside to get sunshine, whether it's the vitamin D production, the psychological um, benefit of getting sun in your eyeballs. It's all the above, but it's like literally a prescription in some of the most advanced like hospital policies. They get their patients outside walking. So listen, the narrative was shaped by industries that had something to sell, right? Fear, as we know, sells very, very well. So let's talk about what the science really says. Most people know about the vitamin D conversation at this point, and I'm not going to belabor that. We can talk about vitamin D on another episode. The benefits of sunlight go so much deeper than that. It's almost like criminal that this is not taught to every person, especially in medical school. The let's list out the benefits here, you guys. So get ready for this. Number one, the circadian rhythm reset. Uh, I mentioned on my prior podcast episodes that one of the most underrated health problems there is in society today is sleep deprivation and sleep dysregulation. So when morning sunlight hits your eyeballs, and there are neuroscientists that talk about this. Andrew Huberman is one guy who is passionate, like big about this, getting like low level morning sunlight in your eyes, outdoors, not through a window, right? So this triggers this master clock in your brain. Okay, get ready for a big word. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So it basically triggers your brain and sets off a chain reaction that regulates your sleep wake cycles. Okay, which is very important for your hormones, your metabolism, your digestion, etc. So if you mess this up, if you aren't getting proper sunlight, like let's say you're staying indoors and you're just looking at screens all day, this is a good way to give yourself sleep dysregulation. People that have sleep disruption, one of the main like people that know what they're talking about is like, hey, get up in the morning and get outside and get some sunlight in your eyeballs. Your if you're doing this, your energy will improve, your recovery will improve, your mental sharpness will improve, and your sleep wake cycles will improve. So number two is nitric oxide release. All right. You might recognize nitric oxide, NO. This is really important for vessel health. Okay. Especially for guys that are really interested in having, strong erections, nitric oxide, very important. You want to get good pumps at the gym, nitric oxide, very important. You want to have good cardiovascular health and vessel flexibility. You want to have nitric oxide release. So UVA light from the sun helps release nitric oxide from the stores actually in your skin. And it's an important vasodilator. Vasodilator. So it helps relax your blood vessels. And this literally lowers your blood pressure naturally. So cardiovascular being the number one of disease-related death, number one cause of disease-related death in the world. Sunlight, believe it or not, is one of the most overlooked tools we have to prevent it. How many cardiologists are recommending that their patients go get regular routine sunshine? Okay, very few to none. You don't hear this often. It's really, really important for cardio health. Get some sun. Number three, neurotransmitter boost. All right, neurotransmitters, those are those like chemicals in your brain that regulate mood, sleep, etc. So sunlight every day boosts serotonin, okay, which is your happy hormone, dopamine production, which is like your reward hormone. That's your mood, your focus, your drive. So you ever wonder why people are just happier in California and Florida, and you're happier in the summertime, right? It's because sunlight is one of the most overlooked reasons. It's not in your head, right? It's in your brain chemistry. So you literally feel better when it's sunny out because it feels good, and your neurotransmitter activity changes for the better. All right, number four, immune system modulation. What does that mean? Well, immune sunlight helps your immune system work smarter, not harder. All right. It supports what's called T cell function, and it helps regulate autoimmune tendencies. Okay. So both UVA and UVB light have antimicrobial effects, right on your skin, which means fewer pathogens make it into your system in the first place. Some of you may have heard of the benefits of like um, low light, low level laser, red light therapy, things like that. These are specific wavelengths that are in sunshine, okay, that help with immune system modulation. Number five, I've talked about this chemical before when it comes to exercise, brain derived neurotropic factor, okay, BDNF. Remember, it's like fertilizer for your brain. BDNF promotes neuroplasticity and brain repair. So sunlight exposure increases BDNF levels, and low BDNF is linked to depression, Alzheimer's, poor cognitive function, etc. So sunshine literally makes you smarter, right? Number six, melanin production. Um, Most people know that when you are exposed to the sun, and if you're someone who has melanin in your skin, you'll get tanned. So it's your body's own sunscreen, right? Gradual exposure builds melanin, which not only protects you from burning, but it's also a powerful antioxidant. Now, those of you who have light skin, you're probably thinking right now, well, I'm not that lucky to have been blessed with melanin in my skin. However, even pale skinned people have some melanin, and you can have gradual exposure, which will create more melanin in your skin, despite being, Northern European white. Um, if you're blessed to have, melanin in your skin and you tan, which I thank God every day that I do, because I love the sun and getting sun exposure on my skin. And I do tan. I think people look a little better when they're tan too. I don't know about you. Uh, you look healthier when you have sun on your skin. But you can create like gradual exposure and increase the melanin in your skin, right? So let's talk now. So those are just like six reasons. There's way more than six, but we only have so much time on this podcast. We didn't even talk about the vitamin D thing, right? So vitamin D being a critical hormone that your body makes in response to getting natural sunshine. And it's not the same thing as supplementing vitamin D. There's more and more research coming out that's showing just because you take vitamin D, it doesn't mean it replaces the vitamin D that's created by sun exposure. The vitamin D that's made from sun exposure is way better when it comes to health, performance, recovery than just taking the supplement. It's still smart to supplement in the winter months or when you're getting low levels of light, but it's really smart to get routine, regular sunshine to make sure your vitamin D stores are staying naturally high. So if we could add a seventh there. All right, so let's move on to sunscreen. So this is a controversial topic here. Most people think sunscreen is their best friend, right? But here's the thing. The truth is it's a very complicated topic. Once again, listen, I'm not a dermatologist. Um, I'm somebody who looks at things from a 30,000-foot view. We're not looking at things myopically, or just, someone who's a dermatologist that only looks at the epidermis or the skin. Um, Listen, I think common sense has to prevail here when it comes to this stuff. I did an episode on estrogenics. One of the compounds that are estrogenic are chemicals found in sunscreens like oxybenzone, okay, avobenzone, any of the zones. So they're absorbed in your bloodstream within hours of application, especially the aerosol spray ones. So the FDA has even confirmed this in their own studies that some of the compounds are hormone disruptors. So this causes oxidative stress in the skin when exposed to sunlight, which is very ironic, because the very reason you're putting sunscreen on your skin is to prevent damage from the sun, right? But what's happening is this chemical reaction with the oxybenzones and the avobenzones. It's basically causing it's causing oxidative stress in the skin when exposed to sunlight. So never mind the conversation about it. If you look up some of the research, the aerosols are killing coral reefs and whatnot. We won't even get into that today. But anyways, so these hormone disruptors are causing estrogenic behaviors in the body and causing uh, oxidative stress on the skin. On top of that, studies have found higher melanoma rates, right, which is skin cancer in people who use sunscreen the most. Which you're like, what? I thought sunscreen was supposed to be, preventing skin cancer. So here's the thing: sunscreen blocks the burning sensation as well from UV damage. So people like will stay in the sun longer when they have sunscreen on, unprotected, which creates deeper skin damage. Mineral sunscreens tend to be more well known to have less chemical problems, chemical effects in the body. So zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, it's kind of that stuff, that white stuff people put on their nose and ears and whatnot. So if you are going to have prolonged exposure, those are better options. It's much safer, and when you need that extended protection. But here's the key: you shouldn't need sunscreen for every minute of the day. You should be building tolerance with short, regular exposures so your skin can adapt, especially like springtime getting into summertime. What I do is I always go outside for a period of time, usually 15, 20, 30 minutes, with no sunscreen on before I cover up or put some sunscreen on. Now, this is somebody also who has tattoos on their body, which, is that the best thing for your skin? Probably not, but I do put sunscreen on my tattoos so they don't fade. Who knows what kind of chemical insult that's causing, but you know, that's another conversation. So here's the paradox, right? Avoiding the sun uh to prevent skin cancer actually can increase your risk of more deadly cancers, right? Heart disease, neurodegenerative diseases, depression, all kinds of stuff, right? Screwed up sleep. So low vitamin D also alone is linked to higher rates of like 17 different cancers. So that's the bigger picture that, let's say, dermatologists aren't looking at and talking about. Once again, I just want to, say this as a disclaimer, like I'm not saying go out in the sun and don't cover up and get as much sun as possible. Like I'm saying, be strategic about it. Understand the benefits of the sun when it comes to light exposure to your skin, to your eyes, to your body. It is very important. Okay. But being strategic about it, like we talked about, because where the dermatology advice falls short, um, is like it they're only looking at one system in isolation. Like if your goal is to keep your skin looking healthier and younger, free of moles, right? The easiest advice is to say, stay out of the sun. Okay. But ignores the fact your skin is an organ that's very interconnected with all your body systems. Okay. What good is it to have like perfect skin, okay, free of wrinkles and blemishes, if your brain is aging faster, your mood tanks, your sleep shot, your libido sucks, right? And your heart is at risk. Like that doesn't seem like a good trade off. So that's why I tell people, like, you can't take advice in a vacuum, in isolated organ system recommendations, right? It's a network. It affects all parts of the body. You have to look at it as a global system. So let's wrap up with practical strategies. So number one is get morning sunlight. Within an hour of waking, get outside for like 10 to 20 minutes. This is when I have my guys like do a 10 to 20-minute walk, like with a ruck, get some sunlight in your eyes, no sunglasses, no windows, natural light on your skin and in your eyes. Number two is build tolerance gradually. Okay, start with short midday exposures, right? Especially if you're fair skinned. Work up to 20 to 30 minutes before adding that protection. Number three is use shade and clothing strategically. So a hat, long sleeves, old school sun strategies, that work without chemicals. I was a fishing guide for 6 summers. I had some of those, um, the hoods and the long sleeve shirts that were light, that breathed well, that I used during like those midday heavy sun hours. Number four is reserve mineral sunscreens for long and high UV exposures. So, like beach days, full afternoon outdoor activities, stuff like that. And number five, feed your skin from the inside. We didn't talk a lot about this, but Antioxidants from your diet make a huge, huge impact, right? Omega-3 fatty acids, making sure you're well hydrated, um, making sure that you're eating the rainbow, eating all kinds of different phytochemicals from your fruits and vegetables, making sure that you're getting all kinds of minerals and nutrients from a whole food, protein based diet. Uh, those all make a huge, huge difference. Healthy fats, monounsaturated, omega 3s, all that stuff's really, really important when it comes to protecting yourself from the inside out. So let's close this up by just reminding you that the sun is not your enemy. It's our oldest ally. Our ancestors lived under it, worked under it, thrived under it. Without SPF 50, it literally gives life to our planet. We've been told to fear it, but that fear has costed us. It costs your energy, it costs your sleep, your mood, your heart health, your sexual function, and your brain health. So I'll leave you with this. You can be a healthy human. You can't be a healthy human sitting in a dark box breathing recycled air, with blue light screens flashing in front of your eyes all day. Get outside. You need the sun. You need the dirt between your toes. Let your biology do what it's supposed to do naturally. Um, and we're going to keep talking about these topics that people need to hear. They need this advice. Always just default to like, well, what is the most natural solution? What is the most natural way my body needs to thrive? Then the sun is a big part of it. So, guys, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you took some nuggets from this. Please feel free to always like, share, and subscribe, please. I appreciate all your feedback. I'm getting some great messages from some topics, suggestions that are folks are wanting me to touch on. So look for those episodes coming up, and I will see you guys next week.